Okay, guys, welcome back. So now we're going to talk more about limits. In previous sessions, we have been talking about the basic four major SQL queries, which are select, insert, update, and delete. So we have talked about this extensively in the previous session. Okay, so now continuing from there, let's talk more about limits. Now, what do we mean by limits? Limits basically allows us to consider the limit of records returned. So it allows us to control how many records we want to see. The way we do it, again, we use a select statement from the table name where clause, the condition is there. After this, we use a keyword called limit and then number. What this will basically mean that how many rows of data you want to see. You could have like 1,000 rows, but you just want to see 10 records or first 10 records. So we set a limit to it. Okay, that's how it simply works. It's a very simple and easy thing. So we say select static from customers limit 3. So this basically means that when you execute the code, it will just show you 3 records, 1 2 3 out of all possible there is. So it can generate more records, but because you have set it a limit to 3, this is all we get. Okay, so this is how simply we work with this limit thing. Limit can have an offset as well. So if you want to have select rows from, for example, 4 to 6, okay, inclusive the 6 number, basically we set the limit to 3. So this basically means that skip first 3 and then show me the next 4 records. Okay, so if you click on this one, this will basically mean that again same thing, show me the 3 records, but skip first three records. So offset basically means skip first 3 records and then start from 4 5 6, show me the next 3 records. So it's like an offset, it's like an skipping how many records you want to avoid or don't want to see at the beginning. Okay, so this is where offset keyword comes into play. Limit will show you only a certain amount. So for example, if you set the limit to 5, this means that you want to see 5 records. However, skip the first 3, or we can say, hey, skip the first 5. Okay, so in this case, it's going to skip the first 5 and going to show us from 6 to 10. Again, the last number is inclusive, so meaning from 6 it counts 5 records up to 10, shows us that many records. Okay, that's what we limit use for. Where clause is usually we can add it to add more functionality and more control within our queries. So we add the where clause. So the following statement selects the first 3 records of customers table where a country is German. So this basically means that if you use limit with where, it plays and it executes the where first. So first it returns all the queries possible where the country is Germany, and then it says, okay, I just need the top 3. So just top 3 will be limited. Okay, so if you don't use, for example, if I just run this query, it will say as the 3 records. But if you don't use the limit, so if I just control X with, for example, oops, let me kill this, I don't want to see character viewer. Then if you run the query, is going to return us all 11 records. So it's just is a normal query. So where we have where clause, where country is Germany. So all the records of the people who have, or customers who have a country as a Germany set to it. But when we use the limit 3 means that out of this Germany, I just still want to see 3 records. I don't want to see everybody. I just want to see first 3 records. So first 3 records is there. So do remember the limit also works, or limit also works after the where clause. So where clause technically takes the condition and it goes further. Then moving on further, we have something called minimum and maximum. They basically are considered as functions. Now remember, functions within programming we refer to as a block of code that perform a specific task. So in other words, these are specific functions. They are a block of code that perform a specific task. In this case, the minimum function returns the smallest value of the selected column, whereas the max returns the largest value. So if you want to see the smallest possible amount or smallest possible value spent or smallest possible value of anything or any record, we can use just a minimum function and it will automatically generate the minimum number from the column itself, as well as max will again vice versa do the opposite and generate the maximum number. How we use it? We basically use the select query and we say, hey, select minimum from the column name. Okay, now this is the different syntax as compared to what we've done previously. Because this is a function, means it is a block of code, it performs certain tasks. What task it is based on the function name. So in this case, it's minimum. But this function also takes an argument, means it needs some data to work on. In this case, the name of the column. So it's going to take the name of the column and then find out the minimum possible value from this column and then return it. The rest of the query remains same from the table name and then the condition that you want to apply with. Okay, similarly, max again uses max as a function, bracket start, bracket close, and then you provide the column name as an argument. So it's going to take this argument, pass it to the max, and it will going to find out the maximum value within that particular column and then return the condition for us. So for example, if we have given this table where we have product ID, product name, supplier ID, category, and so on and so forth, we can use the minimum function as, hey, find out the minimum price given by as the smallest price from this product table. Okay, so we can come here and execute the query. So if you execute the query, it's going to give us smallest price to 50. So it's going to take, hey, minimum from this price table. We don't have a price table right now here. Okay, I think it's just using its own table. So we're going to say minimum price. Sorry, it's taking from the products table. It's going to take the products table. So if you read the products table, it has a minimum price column. So this is the column name. So it's going to say find the minimum column name as smallest price. Now, as we have not discussed yet, but this is like an alias, setting a nickname for the new column, or because it's going to return to us a value that from a table that is the lowest possible. So we're going to say, hey, return it, but now name that column as smallest price. So we get a new column name called small price with the 250. So it's going to tell us, hey, the smallest value in your tables called product is 250. Okay, so this is what basically as does, and the smallest price, this is how we work. Similarly, we can use the max price as well. So the maximum price basically will mean that the maximum number of price in your products table is 263, and we're going to say, hey, set this new column or new output as the largest price. So we can very easily rename the column in our output and get that value. So this is what minimum function and maximum function does. Okay, let's moving on to count now. As similar to minimum and maximum function, we can use what we call count. Okay, what count does, obviously the name suggests, returns the number of rows that matches a specific criteria. So previously, whenever we execute a query, this is given here. This is not actually the part of our output. This is just the query returning some additional data. Okay, but if we want this to be the part of our output, or we want to know how many records exist satisfying a particular condition, we use a count function. This function allows us to count the number of data, whatever we want to do, number of columns, number of results within a particular thing. So we provide a table name, we provide a condition. Similarly, we have average function. A function returns the average value of a numerical column. Okay, so very simple, self-explanatory. Defines the average value within a column and returns that particular number. So if I proceed further, we have sum. So sum function returns the total sum of numeric columns. So if you want a total certain values or total certain numbers, you can basically use this sum function to find out all these things. So let's just give a very quick examples of this. So what we do is we write select count product ID from the products table. So I want to know how many products exist in my product table. To quickly do that, I can just simply write a query, hey, select count product IDs. So all the product IDs within your system, count them and return it. Okay, so if I click on the return, see it generates this as a new table, count product ID 77, indicating that there are 77 records in your table. Wonderful. Similarly, if you come back here, average, again, will calculate the average price. So we can say, hey, we have price. So every customer has given their own price. What's the average price within the system? So I just use the average function with the price. And we can say from product table, click on return. So it's going to say, hey, this is the average price. So this basically means that if you click on products table, and if I click on run, this basically means that see there are multiple customers, multiple products listed here, around 77, and then it has, each product has a different price. We want to know average price of all the products. So this is where average function comes into play. Similarly, we have sum function. So if I click on sum, now it's going to say, hey, sum, add all these prices together, or all whatever column you want to provide. In this case, we are going into order details table, and we're going to say quantity. Okay, click on run. So it's going to say, hey, the sum quantity, this function returns 51317 value. So it's going to add all the quantities within that particular table and return the amount to us. Wonderful. So these functions are there, and there can be tons of other functions within SQL that you can use that basically allows us to process some data very quickly and very easily. So these are what we call some built-in functions like minimum, maximum, count, average, and sum that we use. So every time we want to count something, add up something in its values, or average out a standard price, basically you have a built-in functions for that. Okay, now moving forward, let's talk more about the like function. This is where things get a little bit more interesting. Like is a operator that is used with the where clause, okay, to search a specific pattern within a particular column. So whatever column you want to specify, it searches for a particular pattern. So there are two basically wildcards often used in conjunction with the like operator, such as percentage and underscore. Okay, so like behaves like an inbuilt search mechanism. So you want to search something from your columns, from your data, from whatever table you're working on. You want to search a particular data, but you may not know the whole name or something of that sort. So like is basically used to do that. It uses something called wildcards, okay, as a pattern. These wildcards, such as percent sign, represents 0, 1, or multiple characters. Similarly, if you use underscore as a wildcard, it represents one single character. Okay, so let me show you exactly what I mean. So the basic syntax of it is that we use the select statement because we again want to feed the data. We provide the number of columns, either one column, two column, or you can search multiple columns for the data. Do you need to provide table name under the from category or from list, and then where the column, so the condition is there, like pattern. So we're going to say, hey, whatever column we are using here, okay, search those columns where the column attribute or column proper value within the column is similar to this particular pattern. Okay, so what do we mean by this similar pattern? So how do we define pattern? Let's try to understand that. So we say here some examples showing the like operator with percent and underscore wildcards. What this basically means is that where customer like a percent, if you write this, so this basically means find any values that start with a. So if you want to search something and you just want to search something that begins with a and you don't know what's the remaining character is, so we use a percentage. It means it can have any number of combinations, okay, multiple characters can be there, but as long as the first character is a, so the rest we don't know. Similarly, where the clause customer names like percentage a, so this says find any number that ends with an a as well. So if you use percentage at the first, it can have any number of characters. The last character needs to be a. That's the difference. So we can use percentage if you don't know what the remaining number of characters are. Similarly, you can use percentage before and after. So this basically means find a value that have or in any position. So you want to find something, but you're not sure. So we can say, hey, find a character that contains the alphabet letters OR. It can be first, it can be last, it can be middle, anywhere there are, use this and find it. Similarly, if you use underscore R and percentage, find any values that have R in the second position. Whenever we use underscore, underscore means we know exactly where the character is or the position of the character is, in other words. So when we use underscore, it means that the first character is unknown, but the second character definitely is R. And then remaining, I have no idea. So it will go always and search for the second character R within your particular string. If you use a percent, a underscore percent, this basically means find the values starting with a. So find the values starting with a and are at least two characters in length. So this basically now means there are at least two characters in length. So don't find just a as a word. This is very useful when you're finding strings from a large paragraphs. Okay, that will ensure that we ignore small characters and small alphabets. A, for example, a as and just find the main characters. That way we can speed up the search as well. So you get an idea. So we can use a combination of percent and to find what exactly we are looking for. Let's do a few examples of it to understand this use in a better way. So assumingly we have a demo database. Okay, this is the database that we need to create. Once you have this database and it contains a lot amount of data, the following SQL statement selects all customers with a customer name starting with A. So if I go and execute, let me just close the previous window. So just avoid the clutter, cluck, 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 cluck. And we click here, try it yourself. So we say, hey, select static from customers, select everything from the customers tables where the customer name, again, this is a column name, like a percentage. So it begins with A and then it can have any number of characters around. So if I run the query, now you see the customer name because we are looking for customer name. The column name begins with A and then any number of characters. Capish? Wonderful. Similarly, we can say, hey, how about customer name that ends with A? So if I try yourself it out, click on the run code. Now it basically means that there are multiple different characters or names, customer names. They have starting point, doesn't matter. Ending point for every character or every customer name now is A. For whatever reason you want to search for that matter. Okay. So this now basically allows us to very easily and quickly find a particular string from within our things. So we use the like clause to find a specific pattern of characters. Okay, so we say this is what we will need. Similarly, we can use percent or and or. So this basically will do, as discussed previously, percent or and or. So it can have or anywhere within the string. Just find that. So if I want to search as long as it has or characters, I don't care how where it is in the string, the position is not aware, I'm not clear, it can be starting, it can be ending, just find this or thing. So now if you look at the string, it says Antonio or, so or is here, and then we can hear or here, and then every string that it returns will have or at some point. This is quite useful when we do want to do searching, because now we are telling it that exactly what we are looking for and how it's supposed to go. Okay, understand? I hope you do. So now let's move to the next one. Okay, I don't want that. um, Okay, so coming back to it, so similarly, there are all these things. So we can say select static from customers' names. That name has a and at least 3 characters in length. Okay, so we use a percentage sign. Where clause customer name is there. So if I can say, so the following statement selects all customers with the customer name that start with an A and end with an O. So I can say start with an A and end with an O. I don't know the middle. I don't know how many characters there are. As long as you find me every single character who starts with an A and ends with an O. Okay, for the customer name. Okay, so customer name is there, and then it says, sorry, contact name is there. Okay, and then a contact name starts with an A and ends with an O. Starts with an A, ends with an O. Starts with an A, ends with an O. Okay, so you can use these things to find out exactly what you are basically looking for. So this was this like statement. So whenever we're doing searching, we want to look into a particular pattern that starts with an A, ends with an A, has an OR in the middle. We basically use this percent. And then if you want to have a fixed number of characters, that the name must have 3 characters or 4 characters or 5 characters, or just must start with A, or the second character must be A. We use the underscore for all those scenarios. Once you understand that, wonderful. Now let's move forward. Now let's talk a little bit more about these wildcards, and there are several other versions how we can use them. They are Wildcards are basically what we say they are used to substitute one or more characters in a string. So it's obviously like we discussed in the example just now. We use it to replace certain string characters. Wildcard characters are used with like operator. The like operator is used in the where clause, so it's always used in the where clause. Do remember in that to search for a specific pattern. So this is exactly what we're going to do. So it uses this is percentage and sorry, underscore sign with the like statement. We just talked about all of these as we go. So this is again going as giving us the same demo. So for example, I want to search for customers where a city is like underscore London. Okay, so I know the rest part, I don't know the first character. So the first character again has to be a missing character L. So anything that ends with after the first character on that. Similarly, I can say, hey, select static from customers where city like L-N-O-N. So it contains L, the next character can be anything, that it contains N, the next character can be anything, and then O-N. This is a rare occasion that we kind of search this, but again, good to know that you can write this such kind of queries using the wildcards. Okay, so this is exactly what we talked about in previous, and then wildcards in this session as well. Okay, now once you understand it, in next session I'm going to talk a little bit more about in between aliases, and then finally we're going to go into the more complex form of SQL queries called joins. So see you in next session.